Hi, people. We're talking about energy today, and we're talking about how plants and animals gain their energy. And of course, we are talking about photosynthesis and cellular respiration. Now, you have some notes that go with this recording. Your notes can be split screen. You can print your notes off if you'd like, but I would like you to follow along. There's a decent amount of writing on these slides. Obviously, you know that you can pause me and fill in your notes. We are going to do this on either Tuesday or Wednesday of the third week of October. Can you believe it's already November? But once I said we are talking about photosynthesis and cellular respiration, and it's how both plants and animal cells get their energy. So what is photosynthesis? Of course, you know what photosynthesis is. It's the process that plants use in order to produce their own food. They convert energy from the sun and convert it into chemical energy. And we know that photosynthesis only takes place in plants that have chloroplasts, because if you recall, cells, they're made of organelles. The organelle chloroplasts allow that to work. Plants make their own energy, therefore they are producers. And we know that all cells need energy. So plant cells, they are producers. They are going to make glucose, while animal cells are going to consume their glucose, which is why we have producers known as plants and consumers known as or consumers who contain animal cells. So plants produce the glucose using the sun's energy in the chloroplasts, and animals, of course, have to consume. We know that. A little bit of review. Plants are going to use that sun's energy in order to break apart molecules and chemically create new ones. It's kind of a simple little recipe. So we know we need energy. Plants need energy. Animals need energy. And our energy source is this molecule known as glucose. It's a type of sugar. It has a super fun chemical structure. It's called C6H12O6. And you can see down below here, that little molecular structure contains 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms. And again, it's super fun to say. C6H12O6. Say it again. C6H12O6. Organelles in a plant cell that contain chlorophyll, more like borophyll. That was a joke. Chlorophyll is the light-absorbing pigment or colored substance that traps the energy in sunlight. It's what makes plants green. Plants that contain chloroplasts. In the chloroplasts is chlorophyll, and the chlorophyll is used to absorb light from the sun and convert it into that chemical energy known as glucose. So we got a little recipe, and we're going to talk about the recipe for photosynthesis, and I want you to pay attention because it's very similar to cellular respiration. If I was going to explain this to a third grader, I'd say plants make their own food, animals eat their own food, and the recipes are very similar but flipped. So we talk about the raw materials, what we start with. Plants are going to need carbon dioxide and water. Plants are going to take in CO2 from the air and water from the soil, and the chloroplasts are going to do all the work. So now we're traveling along the recipe process. I'm starting with CO2 and I'm starting with water, and I need some energy from the sun. So once I have the sun's energy, I'm able to break down the CO2 and water, and I'm able to combine new substances. So you notice, guys, I have everything highlighted in yellow that you would add to your notes. So you can go ahead, of course, and pause and do that. So we're going with the recipe thought here. I have the CO2. I have the water. I get my energy from the sun. My chloroplasts are doing the work. They are going to chemically change and create glucose and oxygen. And the glucose has that fun chemical structure. We have C6H12O6, and we know oxygen. So what happens, right? We started with the beginning in the recipe. You know, if I was again explaining this to a third grader, I'd say I would talk about photosynthesis like baking cookies. I'm starting with my raw ingredients, my flour, my sugar, my butter, and I'm coming out with some wonderful cookies. Well, in a photosynthesis or photosynthetic reaction, now that's a fun word to say. We are going to start with CO2 and water. We're going to get energy from the sun. We are then going to produce oxygen and glucose. So what happens? Well, the plant's going to release most of the oxygen to the atmosphere, and most of the glucose is going to be stored to be used at a later time. Some of the oxygen and glucose is transported to the cell's mitochondria. Remember, mitochondria is like that random weird, I think it's like a meme, I don't know, you guys know better than me, where it's like mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Well, yeah, it's in the mitochondria where the glucose is used to power our bodies. And in this case, plants use it to continue to gain energy to function. And we got a crazy little equation. We got carbon dioxide, and we got water, and we got energy. And we are then able to produce glucose and oxygen. And here's what I'm going to do now. The word that you need to add in is a coefficient. Tells how many of the molecules is needed to be balanced. It tells how many of that molecule is needed or produced. I do not care about you memorizing this formula in terms of molecular coefficients and balancing equations. In fact, I'm not even going to teach you about balancing equations yet, because I remember struggling with that when I was a 12th grader in chemistry class back in the day. What I do want you to know is that we start with CO2 and water, we get some energy from the sun, and out comes glucose and oxygen. Now, here's where we flip the page. Is plants produce glucose and oxygen. Well, here's what's really cool. Is we're animals, and our cells cellularly respirate. And what's cool is plants basically breathe out what we need to breathe in order for us to survive. So you're going to see that the equation is flipped. So what's needed for cellular respiration, now we're talking about animal cells, is we need glucose and we need oxygen. It's sent to the cell's mitochondria, and it produces that function known as cellular respiration. The plant gets both of these through photosynthesis. Animals get oxygen through breathing and glucose from eating plants. So I always talk about it like this. Where do we get the energy we need? Well, plants get energy from the sun. Humans or animals, any sort of animal cell, gets their energy from eating glucose. So the sun powers plants, and plants power us. So the process here it's the complete opposite. We take our glucose and we take our oxygen, and well, it enters the cell's mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell. In that mitochondria, which is an organelle in a cell cells made of organelles, they chemically break down the glucose and oxygen, releasing the energy holding the molecules together. This energy is what powers our cells. You're made of like trillions upon trillions upon trillions of cells right now. Because of your cells, mitochondria, and the glucose and oxygen it is needed, it allows your cells to function correctly. So products, what comes out? We start in the cellular respiration. We start with glucose, we start with oxygen, and now we are going to produce water and carbon dioxide. Notice that the formulas are opposite. Because here it is, the equation for cellular respiration. We are going to end with CO2 and water. We're going to start with glucose and oxygen, C6H12O6. Remember, I don't care about balancing there. But yeah, here's what's really cool. I like this little chart because you're going to notice that it's pretty darn simple because it's pretty darn similar. Check this out. What goes into photosynthesis is what comes out of respiration. What comes out of photosynthesis is what goes into cellular respiration. They are inverses. They are the reason why we have the energy right now. Thank you for watching this wonderful video. I appreciate you filling in the notes. Have a wonderful Tuesday or Wednesday. and I will see you soon. And lastly, if I was going to give you a quiz over these notes, those are five little questions that'll help you. You don't actually have to take the quiz, but those are a good little check for understanding questions. While you're home and you're being a wonderful sibling, if you have any siblings, why don't you give your little sibling this quiz? Have them watch my YouTube video, and we're going to learn about photosynthesis and respiration. I don't think that could be better. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.